Let's see what Ben's doing tonight. I really know. What are you doing, Shelby? What's up, Ben? What you working on tonight?
Can't get the... No wonder this thing doesn't work.
I don't think that's going to work for your turbochargers.
Push this button. Let's clean the carburetor.
Something we can probably do.
Oh, this is a disaster. This doesn't even go to this truck. Why? Oh, God. I was supposed to be at work.
Blake here with Blake's Builds. Tonight we're doing something a little different. We are in my buddy Ben's shop, and this is his 1972 Ford F100. I'm not even going to act like I know what all's done to this. We'll let him tell us here in a minute. But tonight we are going to clean the carburetor. He's going to kind of show us how it's done because honestly, I don't know how these fancy toilet bowls work anyways. I just stick to the EFI stuff, but I'm sure he could teach us a thing or two. So let's get started.
Yes, right now.
Yeah.
Right this very second.
Right now.
All right. What we got here, this is my 1972 Ford F100, rendition probably 5. We bought the truck in 2015, I think, and it got redone in sometime in the 90s, so it had a lot of 90s themed stuff in it. We got rid of all that. We got rid of the twin I-beam that somebody had decided to heat up to lower, and I put a whole entire Crown Vic front end under it out of a police interceptor. So
nice.
One day we'll get up under it and you can see it a lot better. That then took us from the four-wheel drum manual brakes that it had to at least front discs, independent front suspension, rack and pinion steering, all that good stuff. If it's good enough for the Kentucky State Police to pull me over, it's good enough for my 1972 F100 that is named Wayland. It's got a pretty much stock 351 Windsor stock bottom end. I think it's 30 over. It's got a set of cheaper aluminum heads on it, but they flow really good because I got bigger ones. So fun fact for you, if you're ever wanting to ball on a budget like I have to, I don't make that much money, get your set cheap aluminum heads, but get the bigger CC than what you would normally get if you got a set of AFR or trick flows, and they will flow just as well. And then you can port match and do all that good fun stuff, which isn't hard to do. It's got a Lunati cam in there that sounds very, very rowdy. It's got an MSD 6AL box, MSD distributor. I changed out the whole entire front drive on it. It's now got a serpentine drive because I hate V-belts because they squeak and stretch and are hard on bearings because you have to torque them down. And so I put serpentine on it, electric fans, stock water pump. Actually has a GM alternator because GM actually managed to do something good there and make an alternator very, very easy with one wire, bada bing, bada boom. But you do have to drill it out for a Ford because the stud that it mounts to the head is a little bit different. But other than that, this is a decent little motor. It's got a C4 in it with upgraded clutches and a reverse manual valve body on it. So, but what we're worried about now is this boy, because I have a crappy fuel filter on here that does not filter like it's supposed to. So then therefore the metering block gets very, very clogged up because the holes are very small in that thing. So every once in a blue moon, it starts to kind of idle and not run the best. So we take it off, spray it out, clean it, put it back on there because I don't know why we won't put a actual better fuel filter on there. Maybe one day. Does also have A line all the way back, braided all the way back to the tank. Still running a mechanical fuel pump because it works and it had everything. So I just said, nah, let's just keep it going. So, but pretty easy process on just getting this off here. So luckily I have the better, and I would recommend any of you carburetor people that do any of this, get one of these fuel logs. They work way better than the little kind that's got the compression fitting up there because I can just do this. We may lose a little gas here.
The fire extinguisher can't help.
Let me just scratch that valve cover up real good. Oh, we're good. I must have ran it out last time. So yank that off. This is an older style carburetor. So if you notice it's got flathead screws, I would like to meet the person who came out with a flathead screw and beat the crap out of them because they suck.
I think it was more of it was easy to manufacture.
Easy manufacturing. Yeah. So any of your newer carburetors will have an 8mm or 5/16 screw there. And also a fun little fact where you're going to see the fuel start coming out of here. If you are worried about fuel getting down in here and kind of ruining your paint or whatever, get you like a little bowl or cup. There's not a whole lot of fuel in here. But get you a little bowl or cup or funnel it some ways because this is almost going to act like a drain if there is fuel in this thing. Like that.
Oh.
So, fun fact. You just doop, doop,
Yeah.
doop, and you can put something in there. I'm not that worried about it. This motor's got to get cleaned up anyways because it's a disaster. We just got this truck back on the road again about 2 months ago. We're fighting some overheating problems. And
Typical Ford issues.
yeah, time to work on it problems and everything else.
Yeah, like you have a kid.
Have a kid, have a full-time job doing this every day. And they're like, do something you'll love and you'll never work a day. That was false.
Oh.
And that easy. This did have, you can get what they call reusable gaskets for these. See how these are black? And if you look right here, you're going to start to see some of where our problems are coming about from. This one, it did have them, but they don't always. That's only like for a little while. Once this thing gets 3 or 4 heat cycles in it, you can kind of, I don't know if that picked it up, you can kind of hear that it coming out. So they tend to start to not be reusable anymore. So it's better off to get you a set of them. They're not that expensive. That way you don't have to put this thing on there and it leak and then take it back off and start puking fuel back down here again. So we'll get this thing out. All right, so we're gonna get all these screws off, get these gaskets off, and then once we get these off, you'll start to notice a lot of bangs down here. And these are what they use to atomize the fuel because atomized fuel burns a whole lot better than droplets of fuel. That's why if you ever see an injector going, it comes out as a mist. A mist will then burn a whole lot better. Carburetors aren't the best at doing that sometimes. So we run all these little passages in here, these little holes, then forth to atomize the fuel. However, these are little bitty passages, hence why we're here. So now we're going to do some carburetor cleaning. It's time. Back. So on this metering block, we've got our jets, which is our main flow into it, and they've got a small hole right in there, orifice, and they're all different sizes throughout what you want, depending on your engine combination, your carburetor, what you're trying to do, camshaft, a lot of things. Elevation come into play when it comes to what jet sizing you need. So as you can see, got a little small hole there.
Yeah, you can see it.
Okay. Got a little small hole there. They make a whole set of these, all different sizes, different orifice values.
You should put some 99s in it.
It's got 76s in it right now.
Nice.
73s, I take that back. I did write on my block the right way. So little tech tip for you. You can see that 73 I put on a Sharpie. So if I'm ever curious and I don't remember what jet I had in this thing before actually doing all this to get to them. If you're starting to run a little lean, if you're starting to run a little rich, this, that, and the other, right up there, then you'll know for reference. And then right here is our power valve. And this gets even a little confusing because it runs off of, like, this is now going to be your part throttle part here because it has the spring in here and they make different values on the spring. They're usually stamped here. This one already knew what it was, but it runs off of manifold vacuum. So it picks up the manifold vacuum that's on there under part throttle. So if you have a very, very big Lopey cam, like my white truck does, we're going to run a really, really small power valve. Like this one's probably a 4.6, I think it is. I'm running like a 2.5 in that Ranger because it's got a very big cam and it doesn't make a whole lot of manifold vacuum. That truck makes manifold vacuum better, so we run a different one. It's carburetor stuff.
Magic toilet bowls.
Pretty much.
Okay. Be careful. It might get you.
So, now, like we talked about, all these orifices down through here, we're going to blow all of them out, get all the junk out of here. So I usually like to start with right in here where the jets go. I'm going to try to do this and not squirt myself.
Aha.
So, here in a second, I'll flip it. And then you can see exactly where these jets go. And then whenever we get this back over to the carburetor, I'll show you exactly where. Give me the old carburetor. I'll show them on that one.
All right.
Yeah. Blake's gonna give me one of my old carburetors sitting over there. And I'll show you exactly where this goes at in it. And where it's then going into the motor. So what we're doing is we're just going through here. See, like that. And just really taking advantage of her.
Oh.
Oh, oh, it's so out in my mouth. Oh, all right, luckily, carburetor cleaner evaporates very, very fast, so that wasn't that bad. Yeah, so don't ever point them at yourself. That's what happens. You get spurted just right. I mean, just right in there. So you see how it blew that cap out?
Yeah.
That's a vacuum. It's a vacuum line that runs through there. What a lot of times we'll do with these, because this is a different section that actually doesn't have fuel in it, is we'll run these to like a vacuum advanced distributor that could then advance from running off this leg of the carburetor. So, fun fact. Actually, really interesting fact. So we're going to take this old one off. And the meter and block that we're working on with this one is on the primary side of the carburetor. So that's the main one that does anything. You have your primary and you have your secondary side. The secondary is an on-off, go, no-go side. So we have, so this is our primary side. This is where 90% of our fuel and air is coming into the motor until we go wide open throttle, and then the secondaries roll open. So what you're looking at, if you kind of look at how that passage runs through there. So this would sit like here. Those jets go up through here. And then as they go up through there, then they blow out this hole right here. So as we see, let's get our thing there, and you're going to see it's going to blow out this hole. So have a little more air, but it comes at this hole. And then if we match this hole up with this hole right through here, and then we go here, you see that in there? And then if you see right through there, it comes out the booster. So now this is our main booster. And this is where the whole Venturi effect happens. If you don't know what Venturi effect is, Google it, because I can't explain it as well as Google can.
It's kind of like a suction deal.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah.
So as air comes through there, the best way I've ever seen it explained is And this gets even deeper into changing out air bleeds on the top of that, what some of these carburetors have. So, is if you've ever had a straw and you put a little hole in it and you start trying to pull fluid through it and you get all that airy fluid, we kind of work the same way, but instead of sucking fluid through the straw, we're sucking air through the straw and then pulling fluid in through our hole. So we do the same
Nice.
thing there. So then by adjusting these jet sizes, that then in turn changes how much fuel it can actually pull down into this carburetor. So we've got that pretty well cleaned up. And so we'll run through it a couple more times, see if we can blow some more stuff in my face. And then we got one last branch in this carburetor to look at.
So can you use like brake clean on this?
You can. Some brake cleans are chlorinated, and so that's kind of that can leave a residue on there that you may not always want to go through there. In a pinch, yes, but just always keep that in mind. And we'll blow these out one more time. Right. Now, that then takes us over into the accelerator pump. So this accelerator pump, if you look right here, runs off of our throttle linkage here. So as our throttle goes up, there's a cam in here. There's a little plastic cam in here. And we can get different cams to make this actuate sooner, faster, bigger, more, less, better. Depending on, yet again, engine size, carburetor, what you're doing, camshaft, you name it. Everything starts to change as soon as you do this. And everybody's like, oh, well, why would you want to do that? Because that's a lot of work. Well, because I don't have to have a computer to do this. I have a bunch of hard parts. I can change all this on the side of the road if I needed to, if it's whatever.
Just a fancy tool bowl.
Yeah. So, but what that does is that then pushes on this accelerator pump right here. Peep, peep, peep. And then when we push on the accelerator pump, there's a diaphragm inside here. Amishing it up with my screwdriver. I didn't even bring my good tool. 2 hours later. Come on. Why are you being difficult? I don't like it when they fight me like that. Right. Now, once we get our accelerator pump off, we see the spring here. There's a little check ball right down in there. And what that check ball does is it runs all the way up through here. And it goes right into this little hole here.
Yeah.
Reusable gasket, my butt. Anyways, so it runs right through this little hole here. And if we take that little hole and match it up with this little hole that it lines up with, let me put this carburetor together the right way. And it matches up to this little hole right here. And then we take that and run that up this pipe to this spot right there. And then flip the carburetor over. Now we've got another hole here. And then if we take that hole and index it to here, to this hole, and then we run that all the way up through the carburetor, which this one's really hard to see because it's still got a choke horn on it. There's an accelerator right down in through there. And what this does is as soon as we crack the throttle, it shoots a little bit of fuel out of it to keep us from going lean while we're trying to come up before our power valve would open and the Venturi effect can start working a little bit better and everything else. You cob on it really, really hard on a bigger carb that's a double pumper, or it's not a vacuum secondary, we'd have another one of those right here, and you can see it. It would squirt on both of them, and that keeps us from hitting a lean spot. Then it stumbles. Everything's not happy. so on and so forth. So
Nice.
we'll blow that out a little bit, make sure that's nice and clean. I can see through it, so I know it's not dirty.
I expected it to be more dirty, but I guess it doesn't take much to
It
plug
doesn't
this
take,
up.
not when you're talking about the
Little
very,
bitty.
very small holes in
Yeah.
here. Like I think I've got a 60 micron filter on that back there at the pump, and I need to add another. Really, honestly, the those cheap paper ones you can just like the universal
Yeah.
ones, they work pretty good. They're just
Yeah.
uglier than sin.
Yeah. You should like a 10 micron or something.
Yeah.
Holley.
I was like, it's got a
Excuse me.
like one that's got the AN lines on the end of it. You could take it apart, clean it.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to do that. If you're having trouble with fuel tanks getting dirty. But
Yeah.
I've only had to do this one other time, and that was when they had the old tank and the old lines and everything else.
Well, that's what you get for stealing gas.
Well, you'll have that. If it wasn't so expensive, I wouldn't have to steal it.
Agreed.
All right, so we're gonna get this thing all buttoned back up, match our gaskets up. Like I said, it got me a set of performance, because this is gonna make more Hurspers, and then we're gonna do bigger burnouts. But as you see, it's good for Holley, Demon, Quick Fuel. This is a Holley 750 double pumper mechanical secondaries all the way around. I'm a fan of Holley. They're easy to tune. They're easy to take apart, as you just saw. There's a lot of parts for them, and there's a lot of people that work on them. So that's my personal opinions between Holleys and Edelbrocks. You take that to the bank however you want to. So, but we're gonna get this thing. Oh, last part, and this is our float down in through here. There's what's called a needle and seat. It is just like the name says. There's a needle that goes down through there and a seat. And as this float rises up, it shuts that off. Because we're only running like 5 to 6 psi with this thing. It doesn't take much. So as this float comes up, it shuts off, and then it just kind of stays right there, and it'll just teeter itself through here, and our fuel comes up in there. I've never really had, the only problem I ever have out of these is them either sticking open, and when it does, it blows out the vent, or sticking closed, and then we don't run. So I've not really been that worried about taking that apart, and also getting the float both set, because I don't have you can get a clear sight on here, and then you can see it. I don't have one on this one. So setting the float level is kind of annoying. It makes a mess. So this one's set. We're leaving it. Not going through that again. I know the needle and seat's fine. I'm worried about the metering block here. And I'm only doing the primary side right now, because I didn't have a problem with wide open throttle or anything. I don't think that the secondary side's got a problem. And the secondary side doesn't have a lot of some of this. It doesn't have a power valve. Well, this carburetor doesn't. Some do. It doesn't have a power valve. It doesn't have some of that kind of stuff. So not worried about that one. We're not going to do it today. This is my main culprit. So we're going to get this thing, get gasket scraped off this one, tidy this one back up, maybe squirt a little bit more through it one more time because it doesn't hurt. Carburetor isn't that expensive. And we'll get back over to the truck and get this thing back on there. And we'll go through a couple more little things about carburetors that you may not have known. Carburetor. Metering block.
Get your gasket on there.
Fuel bowl. Gasket. Here. Gasket. Here. So now one thing we want to do is set this up here. We kind of got to wiggle and jiggle and do the hokey pokey, and we turn ourselves around. So when we go to put this on, you see this little flap here for the booster. We're going to get it down, but then we also need to pick up the arm and make sure it goes under it, and then sandwich it all together. There's alignment dowels in here. It doesn't let you get it too crazy off. And then we'll get one screw hand started. If these start just not going, they start going in really, really tight. I mean, you should just be able to right with your finger. If they start going in tight, stop. Please, for the love of God, just stop. It's not in its hole. Sound like
hey, mechanical thread locker, cross thread it.
I worked with an idiot one time. His favorite saying, well, cross thread's better than no thread.
Well, I mean, he's not wrong.
Yeah, you go back and try to get this stuff loose that he put on.
I'm not. Yeah, no. If someone's got to come back behind you and fix it, yeah, no. Do it to your own stuff. That's your own fault.
I don't know why these lug nuts won't come on. You get them off, there's not even a thread. It's shiny shards. I'm like, great. I guess we're putting lug studs in for the rest of the day. Oh, I forgot my screwdriver.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no.
So this is where the magic quadro goes down the hole. Okay, sorry. Oh my gosh, he's got his.
No.
No, you've done enough.
So did you know back in the day, semi drivers, because a lot of them always had to start their semis on ether, which is pretty much starting fluid, which is pretty much carb cleaner, which is pretty much brake clean also. Just a little bit different. Starting fluid's got a little bit of lubricity to it, so it's not so dry.
Yeah.
That's why you're not technically supposed to start one on starter fluid because it's got a little bit of because it'll dry your cylinders out really really bad, and then you don't have oil. Keep doing it enough, you'll completely take the oil out of a lot of the cylinders. Then you don't have then there's no oil in the cross hatching. Then you don't have compression. Not good. Junkyard Digs did it one time with a diesel.
It's like washing the cylinder down.
Pretty much, yeah. That's why if one floods really, really bad, all the gas will do the same thing.
Yeah.
It'll take all the oil off your cross hatchings in there. Then the rings don't have anything to seal against because there's no oil there. And then you lose compression. And then you're like, I don't really, why does the motor not have compression anymore? So,
is that why they say to put some oil if you're doing a compression test? Put a little oil in there.
That is to see if maybe you've got some really weak rings. Because as the rings start wearing out, they need a little bit more oil, and that gap in between where they pinch, if you put a little oil in there, you'll seal that up, and then it'll show you that, yeah, you've got compression, but it should be this. So like if you do a dry one, you're like, that seems like it's maybe a little bit low, and you do a wet one, and it doesn't change, that's probably just what the compression is.
Yeah.
Now if you do it and it changes, you're like, this motor's probably got some miles on it. So this 30,000 mile motor actually has 230,000. So, and in these screws, we just need to go. We don't need to torque these things down. If you do, it really deforms the gaskets, and that's a bad day. So.
So push the gasket outside.
Yeah. So just real, not much tightening at all.
Hand tight.
I don't know what the torque spec is on it because that's. So now what we'll do is we'll go through here, shine our light, check everything, make sure everything's good. Hook our fuel line back up. Also, a little tech tip for you: if you don't want to buy the expensive wrenches to tighten that line up, because you can see mine's a little bit knurled up here. Take the wrench that fits it, put a little electrical tape on the inside of it.
Protects aluminum.
Yep, protects it, and you don't gnaw it all up.
I got an AN wrench.
You got an AN wrench.
It was like $4 on eBay.
I could have got a gallon of gas for that.
Sometimes.
And when you run carbureted, you need gas.
Sometimes.
No, we'll just give that thing a little snoogie woogie poo right there.
Oh,
That's what Daddy likes. And this one looks like it's moving a little bit, so we're actually gonna. Loosen that back up. Get this little snuggy wuggy. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And there we go. And now, quick fun little tip for you. So this has to fill up all the way up to about here before we're going to get fuel to start going in here. That takes a while. This has got a mechanical fuel pump, so we're going to be sitting here cranking on it, and it's probably already lost prime because this thing I haven't started this thing in about 3 weeks now. I haven't needed to. So odds are that that's lost prime down there, which then means we're going to crank on even longer. The battery's more than likely dead in this thing. So what we're going to do instead, we go sent our wife to the Dollar Tree or Dollar Store and get some of those cheap condiment bottles. And I filled this up. This is a fancy My Blend gas that I made. It's statutory.
You stole it.
You can't get this in any store. This is specific to Ben and what I do. You can't get it. All right, it's freaking 2-stroke gas. I drained in my boat and I need to do something with it. So, but really, honestly, I was looking one day and there's not that much oil you actually put in there.
No, it's
you
like
put 2 or 3 point
it's
3 point
2%.
something
50
ounces per gallon.
So if 50 to 1 would be 2%.
Yeah, it's which is like 3 point. I think 50 to 1 is 2.6 milliliters.
Yeah,
of oil, or
that's nothing.
Maybe it's ounces. I don't know. It's literally nothing. It's just enough to tint it.
Yeah,
But and you run in here, it may. If
that's a little lubrication.
Well, I'll say it may smoke a tiny bit, but it ain't. Big Blue. Now the Big Blue, I forgot about that. I pumped that throttle like 6 times, and then left and went and did something else, and then I came back, and the battery still wasn't dead, or still wasn't charged, and I went there and pumped that throttle again, and it still won't kick. So I left and came back and pumped it again, and now that one smoked a little bit.
So how do you know when it's full?
It comes out this vent. So
Vent on the very top there.
Yeah. So what?
Oh, okay.
What we have to not make a horribly suction or completely lock the ability for fuel to flow, we also need to vent this fuel here.
Mm-hmm.
So otherwise it doesn't just start blowing in here. And also once we shut this thing off, the heat of the motor makes the fuel get hot, and then the fuel expands and it can blow out of here, which they do sometimes do. They make little tricks and tips that make
Yeah.
do that. But I see, because also when you're only running 5 to 6 psi, we have problem with fuel boiling.
Understandable.
If you want to know about fuel boiling and all that kind of stuff, just look up volatility. But what we're doing is we can fill this bowl all the way up, and we'll fill it up until pretty much until the float kind of stops.
Sounds like it's filling up.
That's probably good. But this lets it go, and we can run, and it'll actually run for a little while. We'll get some more in the secondaries. They probably leaked down. They were up.
Nice.
Kind of spurted out a little bit there.
There it is. Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll give her a little.
Just a little down the hatch.
Down the hatch. Now, if you're worried about your timing being off, don't do that. There's a black spot under my hood of the white truck that. Don't do that.
Fireball coming way out. Just
it
backfired.
makes it a very large one sometimes. Especially if you have your timing way off and it like 180 and it ignites in the intake and blows it all up. So
you gonna try to start it?
We'll see if she'll start.
We'll give her
I can't run it real long because I don't have any trans fluid in it.
Yeah. So this has been a little bit different video than normally what I do, watching, somebody else work. But hey, I learned something today. I hope you learned something. If you didn't learn anything, I don't know what to tell you. Nitrous. But anyways, definitely gonna have to do a ride spotlight on this 72 F100 just because it is absolutely an amazing ride. But as you this truck does absolutely insane burnouts. I mean, it's got like a 5,000 RPM stall, which is just absolutely stupid, and
no chip,
so there's no telling what she's singing up there, and it is absolutely wild. Nitrous. But I just want to thank y'all for watching, and just have a great evening, great day, whatever time you're watching this, and God bless. Let's get you to talk about the truck. Just kind of say what all it is.
You ready?
Yeah.
Are you ready now?
I'm ready. You can
right this very second.
Right this second. We're rolling.
What we got here is my 1972 Ford F. You didn't turn this mic back on.